He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
This is the Alex Marlow Show, where we ask all the important questions such as...
Are you supportive of these onesies?
Are you supportive of these onesies? That's what we're in great hands in this country. You know what? Maybe Ramaswamy was right. Maybe we are in a mediocre age. If these are our senators. I was feeling pretty good about how we were doing, thinking maybe we are an excellent country again. And then I don't know. See Bernie Sanders up there. All right, a lot going on. Sadly, I'm going to have to delay my marathon of clips. Misty and I have dutifully prepared for all of you to talk about this Potomac River horror that's going on. A Blackhawk helicopter crashing into a passenger plane, American airline flight heading into Reagan National Airport in our nation's capital. 64 people were on board the passenger plane, and we believe they're all dead. I mean, hopefully we'll have great news, at least for some of them, but it seems unlikely. Those of you who are unfamiliar with the Blackhawk, it's a really big helicopter. I've been in helicopters only one time, and they were a couple times. They were all Blackhawks while I was doing reporting at the border. And they're big. They're bigger than small planes, and you don't want to crash into one of them. It's not gonna go well. And they were apparently on a training mission with 3 pilots, and they were experienced. At least had a bit of experience. There's typically 4 pilots, I think, on a Blackhawk, so I don't know what that was about, but there's completely unexplained as of the time we're recording. In the first major commercial crash in the United States since 2009, which is a really long time. It just proves that airline travel continues to be safe, but I'd be lying if I didn't feel like one of these things was going to happen. It felt like we had so many close calls, all of which we bring up to you at Breitbart.com. I don't know if I've talked a lot about them on the Alex Marlow Show since we've been up and running. But it is one of those things where it felt like we were due for one of these. And it felt like we were cutting a lot of, it felt a little bit like the LA fires. It felt like this was always a possibility. And there was always a chance that something was going to go wrong. And the emphasis, maybe it's on the wokeness, maybe it's on lessening standards, maybe it's just people getting lazy because we've got this so dialed in, whatever it is. Felt like this was going to happen, and it did. And now we don't really know what's going on. There's a few things that are unexplained. The first thing was, first of all, how could the Blackhawk pilots, how could they not see a plane coming? That would be number one. So the first thing in your mind goes to, was this some sort of I don't know, it didn't feel like terrorism. It feels like maybe a murder-suicide, but who knows? Maybe it was just human error. Maybe there's a lot of lights, there's city lights, there's airport lights. Maybe they just didn't see it coming. It's possible. They've got instruments, they've got radar, but could they have missed it? We have ran this down at Breitbart, and apparently, yes, we've talked to some people who are experts who served with the people who were in this crash, and Christina Wong's and some of this reporting for us at Breitbart News, and it's a possibility they just didn't see him. Why was this plane heading for this particular runway? Typically, the passenger planes at Reagan go towards a different runway. It is runway number 1, I think is what it's known, and it is a longer runway. This plane was landing at runway 33 because of, I guess, congested, and maybe they're trying to shave a couple minutes off of flying time, hit some sort of a mark because the airline companies want to make sure you hit the mark, and they're just trying to get the plane down and confuse some people. At least that's a possibility of what happened. So the military aircraft, I think, expected the plane to land on runway 1, and then it landed on runway 33. So the pilots had night vision goggles on. Was that some sort of a factor that they couldn't see because of the goggles? But again, you would think that they would have thought of that. So a lot of mysteries, a lot of death, a lot of destruction. Of course, we're seeing a fair number of people who are being irresponsible about it. Bakari Sellers over at CNN immediately blamed Donald Trump. So it was Trump's fault that this happened. So he had to take that tweet down, but it doesn't matter if he took it down. I mean, that's what he harbors in his heart. Someone so hate-filled that Donald Trump caused his plane crash. So we'll keep on it for you at Breitbart News, but bad news. And I don't know what the explanation is, but it's not going to be good. It's going to be a handful for Pete Hegseth, the new the new Pentagon Department of Defense secretary, because he's going to have to figure this out. Seems like a Army mess up, most likely, but perhaps something more nefarious, and the American Airlines CEO all the way out there blaming the military. We've got to figure out what went wrong and whether or not there was some sort of systemic institutional rot. Could the people in the control tower done anything? I listened to a lot of footage of the air traffic control. Was there anything that could have been done there? They seem focused. I'm sure this stuff comes out of nowhere, but was there an order? There's reports they could have given a specific order to hold north, I think is what Christina's reporting for us at Breitbart News. And if they'd given that order, it might have been okay. So everyone there is going to have to be investigated. Reports are the control tower was understaffed. Terrible stuff. We're talking about catastrophic loss of life. This is a brutal detail. At least 14 members of a U.S. figure skating team died. Oh my God. Terrible. Man, Trump is calling out Pete Buttigieg's BS, Transportation Secretary. Biden-era DEI after fatal American Airlines Blackhawk crash. I've got some clips that Misty pulled of some of the press that's gone on, a lot of people weighing in. Let's hear from the president.
We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude. They have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence. And
so you can't dismiss it that Trump's right about this. And we don't know yet. I don't think we've investigated. And I think in a different media era, he wouldn't have come out and pointed this out right away. But he might be right. We might learn that the air traffic controllers were not of the highest quality for some reason. Perhaps it's a woke diversity reason. We don't know yet. It might not be that at all. But I think we're in an era where we can raise those questions.
And we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse.
So you guys know that when you're a hammer, everything's a nail, but I keep seeing scenarios where it's going to be Trump versus Obama in 2028 for the presidency. So it's interesting that you name checked Obama there, because it could be his potential the opponent when he runs for his third term. So just think about it. All right, Pete Hegseth spoke. Let's hear from him.
Routine annual retraining of night flights on a standard corridor for a continuity of government mission. The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. And I think the president is right. There was some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating at the DOD and Army level. Army CID is on the ground investigating. Top-tier aviation assets inside the DOD are investigating, sir, to get to the bottom of it so that it does not happen again, because it's absolutely unacceptable. But I want to echo.
Yeah, that's good. I wish he had more answers, but it's nice that he's looking into it right away, taking seriously, showing face. You notice how the Biden people wouldn't show face so often? I mean, they don't pop up and just explain themselves. If they do, it's all mealy-mouthed. They just say it's unacceptable, mistakes were made, hold people accountable. So, all right, it's a bare minimum, but it's a good start. Got to figure out what went wrong. I just don't know why they need to do the training near the passenger flights. I don't understand that. Why is that necessary? I mean, that's the explanation that I would like to get first. So why are we doing the training by the passenger planes? Seems kind of high stakes. Okay, J.D. Vance spoke on this. Let's hear from him.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. I just want to reemphasize something the President said, and you've heard from the Secretary of Transportation and of Defense. There really was a whole of government response. We were all on the phone. We were all communicating yesterday, trying to get to the bottom of this immediately, but also try to communicate with the American people about what happened. Something the President said that I think bears reemphasizing. which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. And I think that is a core part of what President Trump is going to bring and has already brought to Washington, D.C. is we want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control. And we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry. Thank you, Mr. President.
Great stuff. It's going to be a good cop, bad cop routine as Trump is going to come out and he's going to be blunt. He's going to speak the mind. And then JD is going to come in and say, well, here's what he really means behind it. And here's the data behind it. So good. I'm here for it. Sounds good. I'm glad they're on it, but horrible stuff. And it feels like the finger's going to point at the Army, but maybe it's going to be at these air traffic controllers. Who knows? All right. Let's continue with the other big news going on. We've got more hearings. Robert Kennedy is testifying again as, well, I guess not testifying. He's getting grilled. What do we call it? Whatever. He's got his confirmation hearing. It's going on now. Kash Patel's today. Tulsi Gabbard's today. I'm not going to be able to get to all of it, but we pulled a ton of clips and let's just go through some of them and give you a flavor of all of these because we learned so much. I mean, just think about how fortunate we were that we were able to get this from yesterday.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
Yeah, that's the problem of our time is the anti-vax onesies sold by a company that Kennedy used to work for. We've half the country's morbidly obese. Or at least not somewhat. At least we're over half of us are overweight. I think a ton of us are obese. Some morbidly so. But hey, those onesies cracking down. All right, let's play. Misty, why don't you do me a favor in our chat? Type out some of your favorites so that I make sure I hit the right ones. And let's start with this one.
When as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping Al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with Al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which
Okay, so far she's just giving an incredible history lesson, a very valuable history lesson. Obama won a regime change in Syria. It was something that was a red flag for her. It happened at the very end of the Biden administration. We're moving that direction now, and now an Al-Qaeda affiliate's in charge, and Joe Biden's got to own that. So this is what gives her deep skepticism of the security state that we have right now.
A regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like Al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
You guys get that? And this is all on Biden, if it's true. All in the Biden regime and all the Republican establishment for not doing a good enough job here as well over the years, but mostly Biden. I'll withhold too much criticism of the Republicans here. This is mostly Biden that's doing this. But it's noteworthy that they're persecuting Christians now. You got an Al-Qaeda guy in there. It's just such bad news. And Biden was out there excited about this. He was excited about this prospect. Also, just notice how serious she is. I interviewed Tulsi Gabbard, very serious person. She's not joking around. So she wants people to have a safer, more peaceful world. That's what she's about. And she's not someone who's carrying water. It's not a role. Should be very refreshing. It should mean she should get 70% of the vote plus. Instead, it could be a nail biter for her to get confirmed because she's a threat to the establishment.
Syria.
She's a threat to
Why
the
that
industry.
should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
and
not
I understand,
in our
and I appreciate your answer, and thank you. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, Al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Oh my gosh. It's just so pleasurable to hear. It's exactly right. It's well, it could be Russian information. It could be Iranian information. It's not American information. Who cares? We put Al-Qaeda in charge. We did that. How is that so good? How is that better than Assad? Now Christians getting persecuted. Senator, I admire keeping her cool. I mean, such an outlandish line of questioning. Good entertainment, though. All right, let's play some more Tulsi.
You said on your podcast, and I quoted it, quote, "But this regime change war against Russia that the U.S. and NATO are waging via their proxy in Ukraine didn't begin when Putin invaded Ukraine. They had their eyes set on this objective long before that." Did you say that, yes or no?
I believe you're reading my tweet.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot
The answer
more.
is yes.
You're quoting a podcast that provided much more
I'm happy to have a
context.
conversation with the chairman about whether I'm taking anything out of context. I don't think I am. And your answer is yes. Are you aware that your comments about proxy wars and Russia's legitimate security concerns, to quote your own words, are in alignment with what the Russians have said to justify their invasion of Ukraine? Yes or no?
Senator, I don't pay attention to Russian propaganda.
So
My goal is to speak the truth,
the answer is no.
regardless of whether you like it or not.
And this guy sounds like Mr. Garrison from South Park. It's Senator Michael Bennett from Colorado. We were told he was a moderate guy. Why do they do the barking routine? Just ask her the question. And it's not a good question. That's why. You're saying the same stuff as the Russians is not a real talking point. We've been so harsh on Russia, so harsh on Putin over the years at Breitbart, and I walked through in Breaking Biden the exact math. Russia has always wanted that territory, but was content to sit in their hands and not go get it so long as there wasn't any flirtation with Ukraine joining NATO. And the second Biden got in, they were talking about Ukraine getting into NATO, and that's when Putin invades. So if you want more detail, I got 20, 25 pages on it in Breaking Biden. Go through it all. We invited that war. It's Joe Biden's fault. It's not the Russians. It is not just Russian information to try to assess how it happened and why it happened. So they just use the word Russia as a swear word. All right, let's do some more with her.
But Edward Snowden isn't a whistleblower. And in this case, I'm a lot closer to the chairman's words, where he said Snowden is, quote, an egotistical serial liar and traitor who, quote, deserves to rot in jail for the rest of his life. Ms. Gabbard, a simple yes or no question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government.
Excuse me, Ms. Gabbard.
Okay, so before you hear the retort, this is the exact same scenario playing out as we saw with the Kennedy hearing, is that when they actually ask her take and she speaks, she makes a perfectly reasonable, centrist, moderate, 100% accurate assessment. So this is the whole thing with the media environment we're in, where people just smear and they take people out of context. And this is why I love playing full clips and why I love to play shows that are dedicated to clips and speeches, because you want to hear the full perspective. That's exactly correct. What Edward Snowden did broke the law. You might even want to call it traitorous or whatever, but he exposed illegal stuff that we were doing and should have been doing. So maybe he did it in a way you didn't like, and maybe you don't like him on a personal level. And you can assess that. So, okay, Snowden, not a great guy. All right. So what did he reveal? Did he reveal stuff that was completely insane that we were doing this? Yes, he did. So can both of those things be true? Not only are they true, Tulsi Gabbard has a perfectly clear understanding of this. Although who does not have a good understanding of it is Senator Warner, who feels like it's a black and white thing. There can't be any nuance. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get it why we're so opposed to having any sort of gray area in life.
That led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
Chairman, we got 5 minutes. So I take your answer, and these are your quotes. Brave, please join my bipartisan legislation calling for charges to be dropped against him. Do you disagree that legislation was not appropriate? Do you believe he is brave or not?
Yeah,
back those words.
Once again, Senator, Edward Snowden broke the law. He also released information
we agree that Edward Snowden
that exposed the United States government's illegal
your
programs.
Legislation and your words are still your beliefs. Yes or no, please.
I'm making myself very clear. Edward Snowden broke the law. He released information about the United States government's illegal activities. If I may just finish my thoughts, Senator. In this role that I've been nominated for, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will be responsible for protecting our nation's secrets. And I have 4 immediate steps that I would take to prevent another Snowden-like.
Okay, very good. Very good. Let's see. I got one more. Let's do one more, Gabbard, then we'll move on.
If President Trump orders you to withhold appropriated funds from the Inspector General, will you refuse that illegal order?
I don't believe for a second President Trump would ask me to do something that would break the law.
Exactly. It's just like, what is this charade we're doing? Now I'm going to not take my own advice. Now I'm saying, like, why am I playing this for all of you? That's Ron Wyden. If President Trump tells you to break the law, will you break the law? He will not do that. And if he did, I will not break the law. Okay, easy. Can we move on? Confirm.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you are asked about an illegal order, what will you do? You can say, oh, it'll never happen. What will you do if you're dealing with an illegal order?
My commitment has been and will be, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, to comply with the law.
Oh, wow. She's going to comply with the law. You guys shocked by that? Great. Like, what's the point? What's the point of this line of questioning? All right, let's see what else we got. So we got Kash Patel. Kash Patel was going for FBI director, one of the favorite people to hate amongst those on the political left. Let's play an exchange with Amy Klobuchar, one of the legends of the Democrat minority.
Benny Johnson's podcast 82123. You have said that the FBI, including today, you said that they remain utterly corrupt. This is an agency with agents who have taken down terrorists, taken down bank robbers, taken down crime. And you wrote that the FBI has become so thoroughly compromised that it will remain a threat to the people unless drastic measures are taken. Do you know that under Chris Wray's leadership, he took over at a very difficult time, we all know that, appointed by President Trump, that during his tenure, the applications to the FBI has, in fact, tripled. Do you think people would be applying to that agency, like in those numbers, if they thought it was so corrupt?
The American public's trust in it is at 40%. That's an all-time low.
Did you say that the FBI headquarters should be shut down and reopened as a museum of the deep state?
Mr. Chairman, are we allowed to go an extra time?
Yeah, I like that. That's good. We should shut it down and make it a museum of the deep state and move the FBI somewhere. It's funny. There's podcast talk. It's who cares? It's just he making chit chat about the deep state and the podcast. I guess the issue is that he does got to get to 50. I mean, I love that stuff because it's just Trumpian trolling. but you got to get the Senate confirmation first, I guess. So it is a very serious job, but I'm all for it. Go on the Benny Johnson podcast and talk trash. That sounds great. Kash will have an open invitation to talk trash on this podcast too.
Let's see. You get a second round. Before I call on Senator Lee.
Could he just answer the question if he said that the FBI headquarters where they investigate cybercrime and terrorism should be shut down and open as a deep state?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
As a museum. Did he say that the headquarters should be shut down?
Mr. Chair.
I deserve an answer to that question. He is asking to be head of the FBI, and he said that their headquarters should be shut down.
Mr. Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
You got anything you want to say, Mr. Patel, before I go on to Senator Lee?
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI. I stood with them here in this country. In every theater of war we have, I was on the ground in service of this nation. And any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair. And I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Mr. Chairman, I am quoting his.
See, that in another word is I don't accept the premise. It's like I don't accept the premise that it's legitimate that my podcast Trash Talk has anything to do with how I would serve in this role. And that everything in my character suggests that I would follow the Constitution and try to honor the people in uniform. And I guess in the FBI's case, not in uniform, but you know what I mean. It's the people who are tasked with enforcing the laws for this country. Terrific. I love it. Just throw it right back in their face. Don't accept the premise and move on by telling them who you really are.
Own words from September of 2024. It is his own words. It is not some conspiracy. It is what Mr. Patel actually said himself. Facts matter.
You forget that you had.
All right. Very nice. Good job. Good job, Senator. You did good. Okay. Here's that little pencil neck.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them.
Okay, so this is where we're talking about how Trump, the Trump Media and Technology Group, which owns True Social, and Patel's on the board. So he's on the board of True Social, I guess. So he's made money off of J6, I guess, is pencil neck's objection to Kash. Let's see how Kash deals with it.
Them that beat them with polls. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you
my entire life.
It in song,
and I did not make a single dime out of it.
In song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that answer.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this.
It's the whole town. Everyone just wets their beak all the time. Just Nancy Pelosi just getting record stock trades. You get the guys like the Lloyd Austins of the world who are just tonning it in cash from the security state. The Secretary of State Tony Blinken is making tens of millions of dollars from security state. So Kash is on the board of True Social, so he got some money off of some J6 content, like maybe he sold a shirt or a hat or something. I don't care at all. It's just of all the money, of all the grift, Hunter Biden, James Biden, Frank Biden, all these Bidens is getting paid because of trafficking trafficking the name of their famous relative, the president, to make money from overseas. Hunter Biden's art grift. It's just there's so many grifts out there and Kash out there. He's selling some shirts. He's on the board of a Trump-based company. Okay. Sounds offensive. I'm offended. Forgive me for not having the time, Senator Pencilneck, to care. I don't. In a perfect world, would we have an FBI director who made money off of, some sort of thing like that? I don't know. Maybe. But who cares? I always wonder, what are their list of priorities? Did Kash sell merch? How high is that on their priority list? Because he's got 5 minutes of questioning, maybe it's 10 total. And that's where he's dedicating the time. We're talking about running the FBI here. So he thinks it's going to derail his candidacy or his nomination. But it feels like that wouldn't be in the top million priorities, would it? Okay, let's see how Cory Booker did.
You made any commitments to anyone about pursuing any investigations or targets if you are FBI director?
Only violent criminals and terrorists.
Have you had any conversations with anyone on the transition team about pursuing any investigations or targets?
Only following the Constitution.
Again, are you certain?
That I have told people on the
Are you certain? Have you had any conversations with anyone on the transition team about pursuing any investigations or targets?
Senator, to the best of my recollection, I've only said I will use the Constitution.
Have you discussed specific investigations or targets you would pursue as FBI director with the President of the United States?
Senator, to the best of my recollection, no.
Are you certain?
To the best of my recollection, no.
That's good. All right, great. I like it. I'm in. Kash Patel, let's do it. All right, we'll keep giving you guys updates on what's going on, and I will continue the best coverage of Breitbart. We'll continue to give you clips because as soon as these people get confirmed, they get down to business and they do great jobs. Tomorrow we will do some more because Kennedy's going on now, so we'll have some more clips. So all this is great. All the nominees look great, but the buzz is not great. I got to admit, the establishment media is framing it as though these are not going well, and what I get nervous about is because it's only a 53 to a 47 majority that we are not fully in control. And I noticed this as all those close races that went down the wire, the ones that took a couple days to count after the November election. So many of them ended up just falling to the Democrat side. And that was a big problem because it makes these confirmations much more difficult because, again, it's the Mitch McConnells and Lisa Murkowski's. They're not fired up when Breitbart writes something negative about them. So a few of them who are moderates, I think, don't want the hassle of crossing Breitbart. I think that's good. But there's only so much power we've got in such a tight majority. And that's something where I don't like when I'm in a position where I feel like I'm just calling balls and strikes. I would like to be in a position where I can do some advocacy on behalf of these terrific candidates. So they should all get confirmed, though. And I'm not seeing anything to make me think that something changed at all. All right. Let's go through some of the news, and I will say something where this is going to be an ad that does not sound like an ad. Gold is at record high today. This is the record high of all time, the history of the world. Gold is worth the most. And I've got a partner in the gold business, Priority Gold, who backs this show, is the original advertiser on the show, and there's terrific people that we have featured on the show from the very start. And I'm in between copies, so this I'll just cue you guys in on this, is that they suggest copy to me, but they always prefer when I'm organic in terms of how I'm selling the product because it's just better because you guys know that I'm not faking it. But Priority Gold is my gold partner on the show, and they've helped us at Breitbart a long time. You go to PriorityGold.com. It's that easy. There's so many different options you have. You get precious metal IRAs. You just get educated about it. And it is, if you'd bought gold when I started advertising with this company a couple months ago, you would have made money. So it's that easy. And gold's gone up record high. So if you bought when I started advertising with them, then you would have made money. So that's it. So is that not the easiest thing ever? You support the show and you make money. So you protect your wealth in a way that diversifies your assets, your portfolio. You look at your future. And you're also supporting the show. I mean, what could be better than that? So PriorityGold.com. Go today. If you got a month ago, you would have made money. So there you go. That's it. So that is my ad. That's also a very serious news item that I would have brought up if we did not have a gold ad today. But we do, and that's it. All right. Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem chops funding for migrant aid groups. This is so good. So these are called NGOs. But it's not really just NGOs. It's it is a this is just a way of them to hide the fact that their main goal is to create an industry for illegal immigration. It's not all they do, but these NGOs facilitate the invasion of our country by funding people who come and break the law. And we now know the policy of this current administration is that if you break the law by entering the country, you're considered a criminal. That was not the policy of Biden. It is now the policy of Trump, and that is the correct policy. All right, a suspect is accused of a plot to kill Trump officials, and that suspect is transgender. The mental illness guys, I mean, the huge overlap. It's a group of people. We indulge this thing with the trans, that if you do the trans, then you are, it's going to help you in your mental illness. And the alternative to the trans is you're going to end up killing yourself. And we learned that it did not do anything in that regard. The mental illness did not go down. The suicide rate did not go down. So allowing people to do the transition is generally a sign that there's something else that's very off. 24-year-old Ryan Michael English, who prefers to go by Riley Jane, alleged plot to kill Trump officials. So there you go. Not good stuff. There's a lot of problems in this country, and we're in this euphoric moment. I just want to remind people that it's only euphoric because now we can start dealing with some of this stuff at a serious level. And it's fun. It's games. We're making fun of Pencil Neck, but a lot of this is dead serious. All right. Border Patrol chief says migrant encounters have dropped 55% from the prior week. So this is one thing that I like to bring up. It's a huge win. The migrant encounters is a big stat to track because the encounters occur when people feel like they have a reasonable chance of crossing the border illegally and being able to stay. So when they feel like there's not a good chance that when they get caught up by U.S. law enforcement, U.S. government personnel, if they feel like there's a good chance that they're going to get deported, that they're going to be sent back from whence they came, it makes the very long and arduous road up from Central America, et cetera. Maybe they're coming from China, maybe they're Mexico, whatever it is. It's not worth it to them. It's not going to be worth it if they feel like they get there and they get turned away. So when the migrant encounters drop, that is a sign that what Tom Homan is doing is working like a charm. It is sending a message America is closed. And we send that message, it creates a lot of, it helps us out a lot because none of us like the scenario where people had been here a while and they had not committed crimes aside from their initial crime. They start a family. Maybe they had an anchor baby or two. And maybe they are somewhat a member of a community or a church, or maybe they help some people who are, shouldn't be paying them illegally, but they are. And then we got to deport those people. That's where the bleeding heart kicks in and you start thinking, oh, well, this is kind of sad. I mean, my take on it, you got to just wear it because we need to be a society of law and order. But you understand how the left can manipulate that narrative. They can't manipulate it if you never got here. So if you never tried to come in, and then if you did try to come in, you were sent back and there was no catch and release. So 55% drop week over week is massive. All right. Let's see what else we got going here. Bill Gates is shocked the Silicon Valley shifting to the right. I saw this in the context of Mark Zuckerberg. He's on his MAGA makeover. He's going to pay $25 million to settle a lawsuit with Trump. I think Trump sued because Meta, which was formerly Facebook, blacklisted him in 2020. So but they did this huge purge. We got to go through some of this history. But this is a suit that's been going on for a long time. They settled at $25 million. 22 is earmarked for Trump's presidential library. Another 3 going to lawyers. I liken this to you show up at a dinner and you bring a nice bottle of wine. $25 million doesn't mean much to Trump and it means nothing to Zuckerberg. But he's just like, hey, let me just show a token of my appreciation. And Bill Gates is upset. There's some hope in Silicon Valley because it's a fresh enough industry where I don't know if they're so locked in on their leftism as much as they're locked in on making money. They're corporatist, which is, it's not good. But I do think that overall they might be politically gettable for us. And if you accept that they're a reality, that we're not going to be able to destroy Silicon Valley, we got to co-opt them. We got to persuade them. So if we can do that, then we're probably better off because we're not going to take out Google. Google might be the most powerful company in the world. I would prefer if they just would allow for Breitbart's traffic to our stories to show up at Google News. And if you search for something and Breitbart's got the best version, it shows up at the top. I would like that. That would be nice. And I don't need them to go away as much as I need them to play fair. The fact I just talked about trans in the show, does that mean I'm going to lose a couple thousand views on YouTube because of that? It might be. I don't like that because Google owns YouTube. I would like for that to stop. So let's just start there and we'll see how it goes for a while. I'm going to do it again. More trans stuff. I'm asking for this show to just get completely blacklisted. Trans Best Actress Oscar nominee Carla Sofia Gascon accuses rival of smearing him. The smear campaign. So Oscar race for Best Actress is going on. Recall there is a man who impersonates as a woman. And it is important to note that this person became a trans in his 40s. So he was a man, then started acting like a woman in his 40s. And now might win a Best Actress Academy Award, which I would love because it reveals exactly who Hollywood is. It's their version of feminism is you give the female awards to males. So I love that, and I think that that would be terrific, and I'm rooting for it. But now one of the Fernanda Torres, who I guess is another actress or an actual actress who's in a different film and is up for the award, is apparently smearing the man. So good. I like it. It's an entertainment to me. I lost the Oscars has no meaning anymore. So no one sees the movies. They have no cultural resonance. No one even watches the award show. All right, more good news. Colombian president suggests he will stop using Twitter after his Trump meltdown. Gustavo Petro, who people suspected that when he was embarking his trade war with Trump at 4 a.m. local time, it was not calculated, and perhaps he'd been imbibing. He'd been known for public drunkenness in the past, and so it could have been drunk tweeting. Those were the days on Twitter. There was a moment, it had to be 10 years ago, where people really would go online and they would have a couple tequilas and they would get after it on Twitter. And it was really entertaining. There's just whenever there's a documentary made about Twitter, I hope this is a big part of it. So it was a blast from the past, but it looks like Petro might have been drunk while he was tweeting. The Colombian people and the rest of the Colombian government do not want a trade war with Trump. They like Trump and they like America and they don't want to tick off America. So that was not well received, and it's going to cause a lot of problems for him. Trump, of course, that epic dunk where he threatened tariffs and then he backed off right away. So we'll see. So we won't be having a trade war with Colombia anytime soon, and Petro is now on the ropes in a big way. All right, and more good news. Trump signs executive order to fight anti-Semitism on campus. Promises made, promises kept here. 18 months of shocking radicalization on campus. Joel Pollack writes for us at Breitbart News. It is really unbelievable that we allow for this. You think about the DOJ's priorities, and they were so focused on getting Trump. And in the meantime, all this anti-Semitism was busting out on our campuses. So the order requires all executive agencies to identify ongoing actions against anti-Semitism as well as actions that can be taken within 60 days. Just saying, if you're an elite American university, you have to not allow for hate crimes against Jewish people on your campuses. Especially if you're going to benefit from federal funds, from a student loan relief, which of course is just a government kickback to the universities. If you want this stuff, and they do want it very badly, then they should go ahead and crack down the anti-Semitism, right? All right, aloha at alexmarlow.com if you want to be a part of the show. The thing that helps me the most is if you subscribe and you tell people about it, evangelize. 10,000 friends and family members is all I'm looking for. It's not that many. You guys are all popular people, right? So that's what helps me the most. I'm getting a lot of great email from all of you. Frank St. John sends me, Dear Alex, been meaning to write to you for a while to tell you how welcome you are back and how I wish your podcast takes off. It's a quality show and you deserve it. I'm really enjoying your show and as always value your insight and coverage, but most of all your credibility. As I've said in phone calls to you, sure, it's red meat, but it's grade A red meat. Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's what I want. I want to give you the red meat. I want to tell you when to get fired up and when to get excited about the good guys. But overall, I will call people out because I do think there's a lot of pandering going on in my space. And I am friends with a lot of the panderers. There's a lot of panderers that I like who do shows that I respect. But overall, the pandering is, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to call things the way I see it. All right. The one disagreement I have was you mocking Senator Bernie Sanders during RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing. I think it's high time someone had the guts to expose and take on Big 1Z. They've been operating in the shadows with impunity for far too long, and I am humbled by this. This is a terrific, terrific comment. And how it was just completely arrogant of me to not take this argument dead seriously.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
It's just unbelievable. I made a mistake. The onesies really are the problem. I had not considered it. I had thought that it was the morbid obesity, and I thought that it was that we're all just eating too much processed food and we're not exercising enough and we're addicted to our phones. And we're overly medicated and we're underly churched. We're not churched enough these days. I thought those were the issues, but you know what? It's the onesies. You're right. All right, things I miss. You taking on the pregnant man emoji at the end of the LGBTQIA 2-spirit, 3-spirit. Yes, that's right. I used to say pregnant man emoji. This was one of my lines when I would do my rant of all the various spirits and aggrieved groups by we cis hetero whites. I would add 2-spirit, 3-spirit, 4-spirit, and the pregnant man emojis. You know, they did that for a while. Who invented that? You can still see him somewhere. A man that's pregnant. I forgot about it, and thank you for reminding me, Frank. Continuing. The updates on your quest for a look. Perhaps you've nailed it down, but I will say I'm glad you opted not to go with the mustache, barring being a cop, firefighter, gunslinger, or member of a barbershop quartet. It is the quarter pullover of facial hair, not a joke. Wow. I listen every day on my podcast app while I drive, as well as weasel over to YouTube to give a like. I like that. If any of you, if you're really into the show, yeah, go somewhere else and subscribe. Hit a thumbs up on something. You know, it's nice. It's just easy stuff. Check out the advertisers. Easy to do. So the note about the mustache, I had a mustache for a year and a half. I loved it. Really great. And I definitely want to have one again, but I'm thinking the clean shaven look is good for now. So we'll see. But no, I'm still working on the appearance. It's not, you guys can tell. Look at all the thumbnails and how my hair is slightly different every day. See, some of you are just, this is just dawning on you the first time. Most people, their hair kind of goes the same way every day. Mine doesn't. So, and I'm toggling between my favorite look is the suit and tie. I do like the suit and tie look the best, but considering my backdrop with the, you know, I got the Breitbart hat, the trucker hat on my set. I've got my books. I got the tiki mug. I got the Orioles T-ball game ball back there. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have the suit and tie going in my home office. So I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, but we'll get there, and maybe we won't, and it'll be very amusing if we won't. All right, our producer Misty's worked very hard today because I've recorded another terrific show that we will do down the road. So for you, with a comedian Brian Callen, who's terrific and a big podcaster, UFC guy, you'll know him when you see him. So that's coming up for you. We got that in the can. But Misty's worked extra hard. She gets a double thank you, and all of you in the audience, telling 10,000 friends and family members, helping us grow. Maybe one day the biggest podcast in all of news. We hope. We strive for it. And that's it. Breitbart.com at the Fight Club today. Christina Wong gives me all the details on the plane crash. So you should go over there, check that out, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening or watching.